Blessings to all of you in the middle of pandemic pandemonium. I think the whole world right now needs a little Neurolink just to settle things down. It's just a little insane. I actually predicted, I didn't predict it was going to happen this fast, but I have a term I've been talking about on social media called pandemic squared. Is the pandemic, so the virus, the fear, the being locked down in your house with people you may not like all that much, is going to cause just this rash of anxiety, depression, trauma, grief, and people are feeling sad, mad, nervous, and out of control. So our task today is we are launching a new product. It's sort of a new old product. It's our flagship product, or one of them. But we decided to put Neurolink in a powder. And we're also going to try to make it into a liquid. This is one of our best-selling products at all time, and Neurolink is why we have BrainMD. Goodness, it was 25 years ago that my niece, Jennifer, who was 7, was a hellion. And she was giving her mother nonstop grief, giving the teachers grief, hyperactive, restless, impulsive, emotional, tantrums. I was getting called 3 times a week from my sister, who said Jennifer was just out of control. And I scanned her. She has a pattern we call the Ring of Fire. To Jennifer. So some of you will recognize that as a classic Ring of Fire, where her brain is just working way too hard, and anticonvulsant didn't touch her, in combination with an antidepressant. I tried her on Risperdal for a few days. That made things worse. And I had been hearing about a product called TeenLink, GABA, 5-HTP, and L-tyrosine, and I decided to try her on it. And now, you have to understand the situation. I was hearing from my sister. She's the baby in the family. She's a passionate, verbal mother, and she's very unhappy. And like 3 times a week, she's calling me, Jennifer's out of control. And then after I gave her TeenLink, I didn't hear from her for like 4 months. And I'm like, I'm busy. But when I realized I hadn't heard from her, I called her up and I'm like, don't you love me anymore? And she said, of course I love you. Don't be stupid. You can't believe how much better Jennifer is. Straight A's in school. We're not fighting. She's calmed down. It's sort of like a miracle. And when I scanned her again, well, this was her brain. And I'm like, wow, maybe I shouldn't be the drug doctor. Maybe I should learn more about supplements. And when we started BrainMD, Neurolink is one of our hero products. The problem with it is capsules for kids are hard, and the dosage often goes to 4 capsules twice a day, and that becomes super hard. parents are taking the capsules apart, putting it into applesauce or into a shake, and the taste often would aggravate the kids. And so we have now put it into one of the powders that actually tastes good. And again, it's got 5-HTP and not a small amount. So per serving, it's 100 milligrams. It has GABA, again, not a small amount, 500 milligrams. And, some people like pharma GABA because you can give less. The feedback I've heard from patients is it's not very effective. So we go with GABA itself, L-tyrosine to help with focus, but also to support your thyroid. So it's balancing along with L-glutamine and taurine and B6 to help those things work. It has just been one of our stars for a very long time. So this is in stock or going to be in stock, and we are very excited about it. When should you think of it? Ring of fire. When you see that on scans, they look like they have ADD, but stimulants make them worse. Usually that's because their brain works too hard, not that it doesn't work hard enough. Mood instability, irritability, temper. And if we just go back, when you see the ring of fire, what you often see is their sensory issues. So their sensory processing issues. The world comes at them too quickly. They're anxious and they're rigid. They have trouble paying attention. And it's not because they can't pay attention, it's because they can't stop paying attention. So they end up being worried, rigid, inflexible. Things don't go their way. They get upset. So they're often the ADD kids with significant tantrums, especially when things don't go their way.
Here we are. Okay, I'm here. Thank you so much, Al. I owe you big.
Hello, Dr. Kidd.
Welcome.
Hi, Daniel. Well, Ali Reza Mahdi just bailed me out.
Well, I am just finishing talking about Neurolink and the birth of BrainMD.
Right.
And promising we're going to fix this affiliate thing for next time. But with that, you can have the floor.
Okay, so I guess I can start by going over the individual ingredients of the powder, huh?
That'd be great.
Yeah, okay. A little bit discombobulated at this moment. This never failed me before.
Well, it is the middle of a pandemic, so maybe there's something going on.
Like what?
I have no idea. But if you were going to tell me, I would have to worry about closing the Encino office or the Manhattan office because of looters.
Oh, is that happening?
Oh, New York City is just a mess.
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
And our clinic is between 5th and Madison at 40th, and that's where a lot of the nonsense was going on yesterday.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I have my my show here. So hello to everyone out there. I apologize for being late. Turns out that Zoom had an update that was mandatory, and they didn't say it was mandatory that you had to do it. So Daniel then has taken you through some of his cases and so on, and I'm just going to pick up here and just talk a little bit about the Neurolink and the powder, and then go on to an update of brain and memory power boost and serotonin mood support. So Neuralink then begins with the humble vitamin B6. And interestingly, this one vitamin is an essential cofactor for a number of enzymes that function in our nerve cells. And it's called a rate-limiting cofactor, in that the availability of vitamin B6 determines whether and how fast and how much dopamine, serotonin, GABA, noradrenaline, and melatonin can be made. So that one vitamin determines all of that. Then we have tyrosine as L-tyrosine, which is the jumping off point for making the transmitters dopamine and norepinephrine, but also important for the adrenal glands and the thyroid glands to make hormones. So tyrosine is one of these poorly recognized essential factors for a variety of transmitters and hormones that have to do with stress and overall management of the nervous system and the rest of the body. And it's really, really good that way back then, Daniel could come up with putting tyrosine into this product. Then it has GABA, which is the major calming transmitter in the brain, and many of you know that. But customer service gets questions all the time from customers who have been told that it doesn't work when taken by mouth. Well, it does work when taken by mouth, and when I went back and looked at the basic research on this, it's clear that GABA can get into the brain. We don't know how much of an oral dose gets in, but we do know that it gets in and that it can work. Then we have glutamine, which is an amino acid.
Hey, Paris, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Because we actually did QEEG study, and I was part of it, and it made me sleepy as all get out. But is it possible that it works through the vagal nerve?
Yes, it is possible. It is possible it could enter the vagal nerve at the level of the GI tract and then travel all the way up the vagal nerve, several feet, and enter the brain through a back door. That is possible, but it's also clear that it can get across the blood-brain barrier. And then it's certainly possible that GABA could also be working at the level of the intestinal nerve network and contribute to its overall actions that way. So there's many ways that GABA can work, but what's clear from clinical trials is that oral doses of GABA do work. So glutamine then is converted both to GABA, which is calming on the one hand, and to glutamate and aspartate neurotransmitters, which are excitatory in that they tend to make nerve cells more active. And glutamine itself is a transmitter. And this is an interesting story. There are support cells. These are the cells in the brain that don't get a lot of respect. There's about 9 times more of them than there are nerve cells. So while the nerve cells are the big performers and stuff, high profile and all of that, the support cells actually very carefully control the availability of glutamine to the nerve cells so that things are on a delicate balance between becoming too excited and not becoming excited enough. And very likely this is part of the breakthrough activity of the Neuralink combination. Then we have L-taurine, which is an amino acid that doesn't go into proteins. It may itself be a transmitter, and it reinforces GABA with calming effects, but it also has a range of other effects in the brain, as well as in the eye and the liver and other organs. It's an incredibly good antioxidant. It's highly protective, and it has this rare quality of being an electronic buffer. So it actually helps to buffer and facilitate smooth electrical activity in the brain and in the eye. And in the liver, it helps with detoxification of toxins and stuff like that. So that's also a nice ingredient. And then 5-HTP, in the presence of sufficient B6, is converted to serotonin and then can be further converted onward to melatonin. So that you already know a little about. But these are the active ingredients in Neurolink. And so the way my best guess at this is that Neurolink is making available molecules, substances that can go into a wide range of neurotransmitter pathways in the brain. And the brain itself is constantly trying to get things into balance, constantly trying to fix things, make things well. And so if these substances are available as beginning substrates and as cofactors, that makes it easier for the brain to pull itself into balance. And don't know if Daniel mentioned this yet, but we do have a titration schedule for kids, which is very, very important. And we put on the label that children should only get Neurolink under physician supervision. So I can send you this schedule if you don't already have it. And it's essentially beginning with 1 cap twice a day, 1 cap BID, and then increasing after 1 week and after a third week. And then the maximum dose usually is 4 caps BID. And better to give the second cap early in the afternoon. And the way when I worked this out was that we had been getting reports from customers that their kids were becoming agitated on Neurolink. So that's how we developed this titration schedule. So if a parent notices agitation in their child, the dose should be lowered, or you back off considerably, or in extreme cases have to stop it entirely, although that doesn't seem to happen very often. So then the powder, Daniel asked us to make a powder that was the exact same composition, and we did that. So 3.8 grams, 1 scoop contains the exact same makeup as 4 caps of the hard gel capsule product, the very same makeup. There are some additional ingredients to make it taste palatable, but those are not any particular factor to worry about. And here you see the nifty new system that Elle and others worked on to show icons for the allergens. And you see that this is a very, very clean product, free of dairy, gluten, sugar, corn, soy, nuts, eggs, yeast, no artificial coloring, no artificial flavoring, and in this case, vegan. So the deal is just to mix 1 scoop into water, preferably, and take it between meals, preferably on an empty stomach, 2 scoops a day. And then, I'm not sure Daniel has even seen this yet, but basically this would be the titration schedule for kids with the powder, to begin with a 1/4 scoop, which would be the equivalent of 1 capsule BID, and then go to 1/2 scoop, then 3/4 scoop, and then 1 scoop twice a day. So anyone who wants this, I can send it out to them. And then we were also asked to make extra tyrosine because some of the docs feel that they need to use additional tyrosine on top of the Neurolink, which which to me makes a lot of sense because tyrosine's clinical actions tend not to break through until we get to a few grams per day. So it makes sense to have additional tyrosine. And so each 2 capsules of tyrosine provides 1,000 milligrams. So if there are no issues with the Neurolink powder, I'll move on to an update of brain and memory power boost and then serotonin mood support. Are there any questions or comments at this point? No, maybe everybody is muted. You're all held back. So brain and memory power boost then, a product that is very popular for BrainMD, and it's offered not only as a standalone, but also as one of the 3 combinations that are in the Brain and Body Power, the blue box, and in the Brain and Body Power Max, the red box. And the ingredients of this are, first of all, phosphatidylserine, which has had the best research from memory and has qualified health claims from FDA. And in this case, we have it from sunflower, which is a non-allergenic source, and not from soy. And let me say this, there are a lot of PS products being offered as standalones that are mislabeled. They're deceptively labeled. So they'll say 500 milligrams of PS, and they'll sell for $19.95. Well, they actually don't contain 500 milligrams of PS. They contain 500 milligrams of a 20% preparation of PS, which means that they contain 100 milligrams. In some cases, they actually contain less than 100 milligrams of PS, and they're selling for a lot more. So from my point of view, the playing field is not level. There's a lot of players out there, a lot of teams out there that are not following the rules and are purposely deceiving the public about phosphatidylserine products. Just like they'll sell ginkgo leaves, which are potentially toxic, and so on. But we stick to our guns, and we do the very best we can for our patients and customers. So the second ingredient is acetylcarnitine. And this is a substance, a nutrient that the mitochondria need to make energy. And that may sound relatively trivial, but actually the brain cranks out a lot of energy. The brain makes enough energy to power a 10-watt bulb. And so very, very important for the mitochondria in the nerve cells and the support cells to generate sufficient energy. And we know that as the brain deteriorates in function, particularly in older people who are having whatever problems, the brain is cranking out less energy. So acetylcarnitine is a very important factor for the mitochondria to work. And it's been found to be deficient in people who have depression. And I'm allowed to use a depression word because we can talk about nutrient deficiencies in particular disease states. So it's deficient in people with depression. And in clinical trials, it consistently improves mood. It also helps to regulate gene activity, not only in the brain, but all around the body. So this is a really good nutrient for everyone to have. Then there's N-acetylcysteine, which is a super antioxidant. And what do I mean by that? Not only does it serve as a limiting factor to make glutathione, which is the main antioxidant inside most of our cells, but it also does what's called redox regulation. It also is a kind of electronic regulator. And this is very, very important in the brain and all through the body. So NAC is a super regulatory molecule besides being a very important antioxidant. So when a person decides, goodbye, cruel world, and they take a bottle of Tylenol, if they're found alive, then they're immediately flushed with 40 or 50 or 60 grams of NAC, which will help the liver to detoxify the Tylenol and gives them a chance to survive. And NAC is also an incredibly good antidote for mushroom poisoning and really for any other toxic poisoning. And in trials, it's showing increasing promise for cravings, for addictions, particularly rehab. That is for people who have come off of cannabis or smoking or cigarette smoking or other types of addictions and are trying not to get hung up again. And then recent trials indicate that it may also be helpful for what I'm calling, in code here, delusion. So the doctors among us certainly can figure out what delusional behavior means. So NAC is showing promise in that area as well. We have ginkgo biloba extract. We had to remove vinpocetine from this product because it's under a red flag from the FDA, and the whole thing has become quite difficult. So we took out vinpocetine and increased the ginkgo levels. And ginkgo very clearly improves cognition, besides improving blood flow to the brain. And I want to caution people here, anyone you know who takes ginkgo, make sure that they're getting a standardized ginkgo biloba extract, because the leaves have ginkgolic acid, which is a toxic substance. And a standardized extract made by a reputable manufacturer removes the ginkgolic acid. So when you see cheap ginkgo products, think about check and make sure that this is a standardized ginkgo biloba extract. And last, we have pupazine A, which is an acetylcholinesterase blocker. So it's a natural substance that interferes with the breakdown of acetylcholine at synapses. Therefore, it tends to increase the levels of acetylcholine in the brain and undoubtedly in the rest of the body. And so it's been shown effective for memory and other cognitive function in elderly people who may have very serious issues with memory and other cognitive function, as well as in younger people. In older people, it's comparable with Aricept. And you may say, well, Aricept is not very good. It doesn't do very much. It doesn't last very long. But the thing about huperzine A and ginkgo and PS and some of these others is that they keep getting better. They don't fade. As a person begins on them and keeps taking them, they are providing the brain with support for healthy metabolic function, for healthy energy generation, and for healthy and efficient production of neurotransmitters and so on. So if you consider that Brain and Memory Power Boost has these 5 powerful ingredients, and if you consider that some of them work as well as Aricept, some may work even better, then you have here what we call a synergy. We can't necessarily prove that it's a synergy, but functionally, clinically, these very likely are operating in a synergistic way. And again, Daniel and his collaborators, before I joined BrainMD, saw the potential of combining all of these powerful nutrients and herbals to get not only an additive, but a potential synergistic benefit. Because the other point here is that all of these are working through different action mechanisms. So they're all having somewhat different actions. The actions are overlapping to an extent, but they're also reinforcing and potentially multiplying each other. So we have here a situation where energy in the brain, connectivity, and neurotransmitter balance, and so many other different normal brain functions are being reinforced by this combination product.
So, Paris, let me just say something. When I wrote Preventing Alzheimer's in 2004, the big aha with that book was the brain does not get sick in one way, and therefore single ingredient products are never going to repair the brain. You have to support it in the ways it gets sick. And then over time, that morphed into our Bright Minds paradigm, where if you're going to keep your brain healthy or rescue it if it's headed to the dark place, you have to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors that steal your mind. So that is why most of our hero ingredients or our hero products are multiple ingredient products, so that we're supporting the brain in a number of different ways. And here you just heard Paris talk about how we're supporting the brain virtually in 6 ways. We have a new infomercial we have partnered with Time Life, and it's specifically for this product. And they talk about the power of 6. And so far, the initial results are positive, which means if we can get people to stay on it, then this thing is going to explode for us. And we're really excited to use other people's money to grow BrainMD. But Brain and Memory Power Boost could well become a household product for people.
Yeah, and I can tell you, it's several orders of magnitude better than that stupid Neuriva that's being advertised on TV, or the stupid Prevagen, and lots of other products that are being pushed very, very hard onto consumers. I didn't mention alphalipoic acid, which is also in Brain and Memory Power Boost. And alphalipoic acid is also a mitochondrial cofactor. So it's essential for the 3 major enzymes that generate energy in the mitochondria to work. So it's an essential enzyme cofactor, a key enzyme cofactor. And you hear about alpha-lipoic acid being an antioxidant, and that's nice, but I don't believe that that's its main function. Its main function is actually as an energy cofactor. So you see here we have energy from acetylcarnitine, alpha-lipoic, and PS also works in mitochondria. We have the connectivity, the synaptic activity, and so on, electrical conduction. And there you have PS at the synapses, you have huperzine A, you have NAC. For blood flow, we have ginkgo and NAC. And then for neurotransmitter balance, they all contribute. And so this product has a high likelihood for improving not just memory and other cognitive functions, but mood, cravings, what I call delusional tendencies, and overall vitality and well-being. So 4 caps daily with food, maximum of 8 caps daily. Possible to take more than 8 caps, but if it gets to that point, then better to go with the Bright Minds memory powder. We had to have a caution there, not recommended for individuals taking antiplatelet or anticoagulant drugs. And let me say this, that the labels, the BrainMD labels, have got so much better over the years. L. Mason is doing an incredible job with the design and the format, and I'm having to follow the feedback I get from customer service, the call center, as well as input from all the other sources. And there are factors that lead us to have to put particular notations onto the labels. So, for example, customer service advised me that they were having to refund a lot of product to people who would open a bottle and then put it away somewhere for a couple of months and then come back to it and be surprised that it was degraded. So here you see at the bottom of this label, use contents within 45 days after opening. So our labels are becoming increasingly more sophisticated as well as more attractive, and I feel good about that. And all of you out there, whether you're physicians or other clinic personnel or call center, you can learn a whole bunch by looking at the label of the product. And so Brain and Memory Power Boost also is free of practically all the major allergens. So serotonin mood support now. Originally conceived to improve the activity of serotonin, but it does a whole lot of other stuff. Not only does it boost serotonin function, but it promotes mood overall and helps to curb emotional eating. And one note about serotonin, it's a very interesting transmitter. It actually helps to regulate and fine-tune all sorts of other neurotransmitter circuits. So you don't just have standalone serotonin circuits. They actually regulate the activities going on in many other transmitter circuits. So we have 5-HTP, which I told you already is a very useful starting molecule to make serotonin. We have, again, vitamin B6, also essential to make serotonin. Then we have folate as methylfolate. And that's a very long story. And because I got such a late start, I can't totally go into it. But let's just say that a very simple chemical group called methyl is essential for the production of serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, the myelin sheaths, which is the electrical insulation of the nerve cells, to make DNA, for DNA repair, and for a whole bunch of other important functions. And so folic acid is an artificial substance which should not be in supplements. It interferes with healthy folate metabolism. So we use methylfolate. We spend more money and we use methylfolate, which is better absorbed and utilized than folic acid and is the most active form of folate in the body. So that pretty much guarantees that there'll be sufficient supplies of folate to not limit all of these activities associated with healthy mood. And then similarly, we give vitamin B12 as the methyl form. And this works hand in hand with methylfolate. It provides backup methyl to methylfolate, and it's in itself, it's important for cognitive function as well as for maintaining mood. And we give enough, 500 micrograms, that when taken by mouth, it'll be sufficient to keep a person nourished in vitamin B12. The huge majority of products out there, of multiples and other sorts of products associated with this type of application, have cyano B12, which contains cyanide, and which is present in much, much lower quantities, much, much lower doses, that may or may not have any benefit when taken by mouth. And then we have the satyryl saffron extract, which in a clinical trial lowered cravings and snacking. And I went back and looked at this trial again, and it does seem that this extract could help with weight loss. So if a person is taking the serotonin mood support, they're getting into a better mood, they're not as driven to do comfort eating, then it's possible that they could lose about a pound a month, more or less. And folate is such an important nutrient for mood. We have a standalone methylfolate product, a 5 milligram product that the doctors asked for, Daniel and other docs asked for, and that alone can improve mood. So if a person is low in folate and they take a high dose methylfolate, not only can their mood improve, but they can also respond better to antidepressant drugs, have a better chance for response, better degree of response. And here are some of the things that actually deplete folate from the body: alcohol, coffee at 4 cups a day or more, smoking. And when I say smoking, by the way, take it to apply to all sorts of smoking, okay? Cigarettes, tobacco, cannabis, vaping, whatever. It's all the same mechanisms. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories also can deplete folate, oral contraceptives, anticonvulsants, even pancreatic enzymes, such as taken by people with cystic fibrosis, and various other drugs. So all sorts of stressors will deplete folate from the body. And so it's very important that you have an active folate in your supplement. And you may recall, I've shown this slide before, this mutation, the MTHFR C677T, it's quite common in certain ethnic groups. So as close to half of all of people in Italy, of the Italian population, have this mutation. And the data indicate that if you have 1 copy of this gene, your blood folate tends to run low. And if you have 2 copies of this gene, then your blood folate runs even lower. For women, and especially when they get pregnant, the presence of this mutation endangers their ability to supply enough folate to their child. So methylfolate bypasses that and gets around many of the issues with that mutation. So serotonin mood support then, in the vitamin B6 promotes the conversion of 5-HTP, and serotonin then regulates all sorts of circuits, from survival level circuits like breathing to circuits involved with mood, cognitive function, behavior, including aggressiveness and self-restraint and so on. The methylfolate and the methyl B12 work together to promote a whole range of serotonin and other neurotransmitter functions. And these are consistently effective for mood when used in clinical trials. And then we also have the saffron extract, which by itself can help mood. And in this case, this particular extract also helps to reduce snacking. So 4 caps daily with food, maximum of 8 caps per day. And we say do not use if currently taking antidepressant or MAO inhibitor medications, and not recommended during pregnancy. So, and as some of you know, I have these spreadsheets for all the products and which ones can and cannot be safely guaranteed during pregnancy. It's not so much that they're hurtful during pregnancy, it's that we don't necessarily have the data. And I really sort of feel that women who are pregnant probably ought not to take any herbals, because very few herbals have been properly tested during pregnancy. So again, serotonin mood support, no allergens, and also vegan. So with that, I can stop and take questions in the rest of the time that we have.